Welcome back to Acupuncture Masterclass. Today's tip, it's an important one for those who are just getting ready for clinic or are starting out in their new practice. 5 tips for a safer acupuncture experience. Let's take a look. First one on my list, you need to know the anatomy of the point that you are working with. So before you even get started with the needling, you should definitely review the anatomy underneath the acupuncture point that you're going to be using, just to make sure that you're aware of what's underneath. We know that pneumothorax, arteries, veins, nerves, all of these things are possibilities. So knowing your anatomy before you start your needling is very important. My second tip is to know your needle angle and depth. So again, before you start needling your particular point, you want to review your angulation and your depth of the point that you're working with. I have a great video on gallbladder 21 up here on the shoulder talking about how angulation is very important. Also, I have a little video on how to needle at these particular angles. So knowing your angulation, knowing your depth, make sure that these are thought of prior to going to your acupuncture point. My third tip is to ensure that you are familiar with how many needles you've put in and make sure that those are the amount of needles that you remove. So there's a number of areas on the body that needles are easily forgotten. I would say governing vessel 20 is a popular one that people might forget. It's caught in the hair, easy to, if you're in a rush, you might forget to remove that needle. Also, many times people will want to keep the patient very comfortable and warm during the treatment, so they'll actually cover the body that the needles are in. And this is another way that I encourage people not to cover the areas that are being needled, to make sure that as soon as you walk into that treatment room to remove the needles, you know exactly the areas that you need to remove the needles from. They're not going to be covered up. But I certainly understand keeping the patient comfortable and warm during treatment, but don't cover up your needles so that you don't forget. So at the end of your treatment, make sure that you are aware of how many needles you're removing and it's the same number that you put in. One tip a practitioner once taught me, keep the empty packages on your treatment side table, and that way you can count how many needles you've removed from packages and just make sure that when you're removing needles from the body, that's how many needles they equal out. So that's a great way to make sure that you're removing the same number of needles that you put in. Number 4 on my list, make sure there's a way that your patient can contact you while they're in treatment. So quite often what I'll do is I'll use a nurse's call button, and I'll place the button in their hand. They can easily connect with me if they need to. Certainly a good thing to consider for anxious patients, people who are just higher with anxiety with treatment, maybe first-time patients. It's a good idea to make sure that there's an easy way for them to contact you in case they have any questions about what they're feeling. I also encourage this technique using a call button when you're doing electroacupuncture. Certainly you don't want to leave somebody all by themselves and feeling uncomfortable with electroacupuncture, so make sure there's a way that they can connect with you. Leaving the door open ajar a little bit if you're in a very small private clinic, that's another way to do it, so they can call and you can hear them. But I do like the nurse's call button, maybe a bell, whatever the case may be. Make sure your patient has a way to contact you while they're in treatment. They will feel more comfortable, less anxious, and you will feel comfortable knowing that they can get a hold of you easily if they become uncomfortable in any particular way. So, my 5th and final tip for a safer acupuncture experience, make sure that your patient's needle sensation is comfortable. Certainly, we expect to have a little bit of needle sensation once we insert the needle, maybe a quick little pinch, a little bit of deep achy sensation, but it's your responsibility as a practitioner to make sure that before you leave the room, the patient is comfortable so that they can relax. Sometimes first-timers, they feel that it's supposed to hurt. It should be uncomfortable for them. You need to make sure that that's not the case. They should be able to relax once the needles are in. And certainly having the call button, like tip number 4, makes it a little bit easier for them to contact you. But sometimes people, they don't want to ask for help. So it's your responsibility to make sure that before you leave that room, your patient's needle sensation is comfortable and easy for them to relax to. So there's my 5 tips for a safer acupuncture experience. Now remember, when it comes to these particular tips, if you make it a safer experience for your clients, they will come back more. You'll be able to help them more. So that's really the key, is making sure that patients feel comfortable enough to come back more so that you can actually make a difference with their concern. Certainly check out some of the other videos that I've got. More videos to come. I'm going to get a little bit better with getting my videos out there, and stay tuned and subscribe with the button below if you haven't already. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to bringing more helpful tips and hints for you guys as you go through the acupuncture education. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Take care.